Here's Section 1, expanded to at least 700 words. Hashtag Section 1, the Galactic Vote, Earth's Doomed Fate. The Galactic Council Chamber stood as the pinnacle of interstellar authority, a grand structure suspended in the cold void of space, where representatives from hundreds of species gathered to dictate the fate of the universe. It was an immense, circular hall, each delegate seated according to the prominence of their race. At the center of the room, a holographic projection of Earth rotated slowly, its blue and green hues starkly contrasting the sterile metallic surroundings. A murmur of discussion hummed through the chamber as the council prepared for its latest deliberation, the fate of humanity. "They are an anomaly," declared High Chancellor Zilthar of the Zenthari Dominion, his voice echoing across the vast chamber. His reptilian eyes gleamed with cold calculation. A species barely out of their own cradle, yet already displaying dangerous adaptability. If left unchecked, they could pose a threat in centuries to come. A heavy silence followed. The idea that a primitive, non-spacefaring species could one day rival the great empires of the galaxy seemed absurd, yet there was an undeniable fear in the air. Their aggression is well documented, hissed a delegate from the Veth Consortium, a shadowy race known for its ruthless efficiency. Wars among their own kind, technological advancements born from conflict, a disturbing willingness to challenge forces beyond their means. "We must strike now while they are still weak." A murmur of agreement spread across the assembly. The concern was not that humans were powerful now, but that, given time, they might become powerful enough to challenge the order of the galaxy. A being of living crystal, representing the Sari Collective, spoke next, its voice reverberating like wind chimes. "They're also adaptable. No species we have observed has ever displayed such resilience. They learn quickly, change strategies on the fly, and their survival instinct is second to none." The implication was clear. Humanity, though primitive in its technology, was uniquely dangerous. They weren't the strongest, nor the smartest, but they possessed a sheer will to survive that unsettled even the most ancient civilizations present. The vote was inevitable. A digital display in the chamber flickered to life. Each species cast their decision in real time, and within moments, the results were glaringly apparent. 100% approval. Humanity will be enslaved. There was no dissent. No species saw value in allowing humans to remain free. Within days, the Galactic Armada descended upon Earth. Hashtag the fall of humanity. It was not a battle, it was a slaughter. The first wave of the invasion crippled global infrastructure. Orbital bombardments wiped out communication networks, power grids, and major military installations before humanity even understood what was happening. By the time the world's leaders could organize a response, it was already too late. The second wave landed in cities across the planet. Towering war machines, bioengineered shock troopers, and swarms of drone soldiers overwhelmed human resistance with effortless precision. The most powerful militaries on Earth found themselves completely outmatched. The United States launched its nuclear arsenal in a desperate last-ditch effort. It barely scratched the invaders' planetary shields. China, Russia, NATO, all the great military powers fell within weeks. The aliens were too advanced, too coordinated, too ruthless. The third and final wave was not an attack, it was subjugation. Entire populations were rounded up and transported off-world in massive slave barges. The Galactic Council had already assigned different human populations to various tasks: miners for toxic worlds, soldiers for expendable war fronts, domestic laborers for the ruling classes of the elite species. Earth was stripped of its value, its resources drained, its people reduced to mere commodities in the eyes of the greater galaxy. The planet itself was left as a husk, with only a few remaining as caretakers under alien rule. The Council watched with satisfaction. Humanity was conquered, broken, and enslaved. Or so they thought. Would you like any refinements or additional details? Hashtag Section 2, the rise of the human resistance. The aliens had won. Humanity had been conquered, scattered across the stars as slaves to their new masters. Entire generations were born in chains, toiling away on distant worlds they had never seen before, their home planet now nothing more than a fading memory. The Galactic Council had assumed that humanity would break, that it would submit like so many other species before them. They were wrong. ####, humanity does not break. It adapts. From the moment the first humans were transported to the alien labor camps, the Council made one fatal mistake. They underestimated humanity's ability to learn, to endure, and, most importantly, to fight back. At first, humans were scattered, each colony isolated from the others. Conditions varied from planet to planet, but the suffering was universal. Some were forced to mine toxic minerals that corroded their skin, their lifespans shortened to mere decades. Others were used in gladiatorial arenas for the entertainment of their overlords, pitted against horrifying alien beasts for sport. The luckiest ones were assigned as domestic servants, though even they endured cruelty beyond imagining. But despite the hardships, humans did what they had always done. ***, they observed, they adapted, and they survived ***. They learned the languages of their captors. They studied the technology used to subjugate them. They took note of the weaknesses in their oppressors. And then, slowly, quietly, they began to organize. ###, the first uprising. The first successful rebellion began on a Zarnax-controlled mining colony. The Zarnax, a brutish, warlike species, had assumed that their human slaves were nothing more than animals, stubborn, yes, but ultimately obedient. They failed to notice how humans communicated in whispers, how they began subtly sabotaging equipment, how they practiced fighting when they thought no one was looking. Then, one fateful night, the humans struck. Using stolen weapons and makeshift explosives, they overran the Zarnax guards, killing them in their sleep. They hijacked a supply freighter, rerouted its coordinates, and disappeared into deep space before reinforcements could arrive. The Galactic Council dismissed the event as an isolated incident, a minor inconvenience. They would soon regret their arrogance. ###, the fire spreads. News of the rebellion spread across the galaxy, carried by whispers, intercepted signals, and the desperate hopes of the enslaved. More humans, inspired by the escapees, began their own covert uprisings. On a Sari-controlled research station, human slaves rewired the AI systems, turning the station's automated defenses against their masters. On a Veth labor world, an entire shipment of human miners vanished overnight, taking with them stolen blueprints of their captors' weaponry. On a Zenthari warship, human servants poisoned the crew, taking control of the vessel and piloting it into uncharted space. The scattered flames of rebellion began merging into a wildfire. For the first time in the history of the Galactic Council, a slave race was proving to be more than just a nuisance. The aliens were no longer dealing with individual revolts. ***, they were facing a war ***. ###, the Council's growing fear. The Galactic Council convened in an emergency session, the first of its kind in over 1,000 years. The chamber, once a place of arrogant confidence, now brimmed with unease. The humans were supposed to be broken, barked a Zarnax warlord, slamming his fist against the metal table. They were nothing more than primitives. How are they doing this? A Sari scientist, its crystalline body dimming in stress, responded nervously. It appears we greatly miscalculated their adaptability. They are using our own technologies against us. They are evolving faster than we anticipated. A nervous hush fell over the council. For eons, the Galactic Council had enslaved countless species, breaking them down over generations until they became meek and compliant. Yet humanity was not breaking. Instead, they were learning, growing stronger, and most terrifyingly, they were winning battles. This cannot be allowed to continue, another delegate hissed. If we do not exterminate them now, they will become unstoppable. But it was already too late. The fire had been lit, and humanity was just getting started. Would you like to expand on any particular part? ### Section 3. Humanity strikes back. The Galactic War begins. The Galactic Council had always ruled with certainty, confident that no enslaved species could ever rise against them. They had seen rebellions before, but they had always crushed them with overwhelming force. They believed this war would be no different. But humanity was not like the others. Humans had spent centuries waging war on themselves, perfecting the art of asymmetric warfare. They knew how to fight from the shadows, how to strike where it hurt most, how to turn desperation into strategy. The Council had not just enslaved a species, they had united an enemy unlike any the galaxy had ever known. And now, that enemy was coming for them. Hashtag, 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 from prey to apex predators. The first major offensive of the war came without warning. For years, human resistance groups had been operating in secret, coordinating across countless planets, spreading intelligence through hidden networks. They had been stealing weapons, reverse engineering alien technology, and building their own fleet from the very ships that once carried them in chains. When they finally attacked, it was swift and brutal. Phase 1. Destroy the supply lines. Human forces targeted critical fuel depots, weapon factories, and trade routes that supplied the Galactic Council's military. They used stolen alien ships to infiltrate space stations, planting explosives in key infrastructure before slipping away undetected. Within weeks, the Council's supply chains were in disarray, their once powerful fleets struggling to refuel and rearm. Phase 2. Psychological warfare. Humans understood fear better than any species in the galaxy, and they turned it into a weapon. They left hacked transmissions on Council-controlled worlds, playing messages of resistance and detailing every atrocity committed against their kind. They infiltrated Council networks, making it seem as though human rebels were everywhere and nowhere. Entire colonies surrendered without a fight, terrified of the stories they heard. Phase 3. Open warfare. With their stolen fleet now numbering in the thousands, human forces launched a full-scale assault on Council strongholds. They targeted slave processing centers, freeing millions of humans and rallying them to the cause. Former slaves, once broken and hopeless, now stood armed and united, ready to tear down the very empire that had enslaved them. The war had begun, and it was humanity's war to win. Hashtag, hashtag, hashtag the aliens begin to panic. The Galactic Council had always assumed that their control over the galaxy was absolute. Now they found themselves on the defensive. Their once mighty fleets were being torn apart by a force they had deemed primitive. Their leaders, once arrogant and untouchable, now cowered in fear. They had never encountered an enemy like this before, an enemy that learned from defeat, that grew stronger with every battle lost. Every time humans were pushed back, they came back twice as strong. Every time humans lost a world, they took 2 more in return. Entire Council species, once loyal to the Empire, switched sides, realizing that the humans were unstoppable. Some did so out of fear. Others did so because they had been oppressed too, and they saw humanity as a symbol of hope. Hashtag, hashtag, hashtag the fall of the Council's strongholds. One by one, the Council's most powerful worlds fell. The Zarnak's homeworld, once a fortress of warriors, was reduced to rubble, its mighty warlords hunted down by human strike teams. The Veth capital, a planet of shadowy schemers, was set ablaze after human saboteurs hacked its planetary defenses, turning them against their own cities. The Zenthari throne world, the very heart of the Galactic Council's rule, was now under siege. Asterisk, asterisk, and it would not hold for long, asterisk, asterisk. The war was no longer about liberation. It was about retribution. Humanity was not just reclaiming its freedom, it was erasing the very empires that had once enslaved them. And the Galactic Council knew that no one would be spared. The final battle was coming. And this time, humanity would decide the fate of the galaxy. Would you like any additional refinements? Hashtag, hashtag Section 4. The Galactic Council begs for mercy. Humanity decides their fate. The once mighty Galactic Council, which had ruled over the stars for millennia, now stood at the edge of extinction. What had begun as a campaign of enslavement had turned into a war they could not contain, a war they could not win. Humanity, the species they had deemed weak and primitive, had become their worst nightmare. World after world had fallen, council fleets had been destroyed or captured, and entire species that once stood united under the council's rule had either switched sides or been wiped from existence. Now, only a handful of strongholds remained, the last remnants of a collapsing empire. And humanity was coming for them. Hashtag the last stand of the Galactic Council. Deep in the core systems of the Galactic Council, the surviving leaders convened in desperation. Their once glorious council chamber, which had once overseen the governance of the entire galaxy, was now filled with fear and despair. The room, which had echoed with arrogance and authority when they voted to enslave humanity, now trembled with uncertainty. The Supreme Chancellor, a withered, insectoid being from the Zenthari species, raised his voice, but the usual authority it carried was gone. "We must negotiate," he pleaded. "We must offer them peace before they wipe us from existence." A Zarnax warlord snarled, his massive reptilian form tense with frustration. "Peace? You think they will accept peace after what we did to them? We took their world. We enslaved their people. They will show us no mercy." A Sari diplomat, her crystalline body dim with fear, spoke softly. "We have no choice but to beg. If we do nothing, we will be eradicated." For the first time in the Council's history, there was no debate, no argument, no posturing for power. There was only fear. A desperate plan was formed. Messages were sent out to every human-controlled system, pleading for an audience with their leaders. No demands, no conditions, just a plea for survival. Hashtag the final decision. Humanity received the message. Across the vast war fleets that now controlled the stars, the leaders of the resistance gathered. No longer were they ragtag rebels. They were now the rulers of an empire built from vengeance. They had won. The Galactic Council, the same entity that had once voted unanimously to enslave them, was now on its knees. And now humanity would decide their fate. For hours, debates raged among the human leaders. Some argued for mercy. "We have proven our strength," one former general said. "There is no need for further bloodshed. If we spare them, they will never dare oppose us again." Others, however, were not so forgiving. "Did they show mercy when they took our home?" an ex-slave from the labor camps demanded. "Did they hesitate when they murdered our families, stole our children, and worked us to death in the dark corners of the galaxy?"
No.
"They enslaved us without a second thought. Why should they deserve any betters?" The room was divided. To spare them would mean proving that humanity was better than their former oppressors. To destroy them would mean ensuring that no one would ever dare enslave their kind again. It was not an easy decision. Hashtag the ultimate outcome. Finally, a verdict was reached. When the surviving members of the Galactic Council were brought before the human leaders, they groveled, their once proud figures reduced to sniveling husks. And humanity delivered its judgment. Here, the outcome can be adjusted based on the tone you want for the story. Below are different possible endings. Hashtag option 1. Total annihilation. Humanity decrees that no species that voted for their enslavement shall be allowed to exist. Every remaining council member is executed. Their planets are scorched, their names wiped from history. The galaxy will remember this day as the moment when humanity became the dominant power of the stars. Hashtag option 2. Enslavement. The surviving alien races are given a choice: serve humanity or perish. The same chains once placed on human wrists are now fastened onto their former masters. The Galactic Council is dissolved, and humanity rules with an iron fist. "This is the price of your arrogance," the human leader declares. Hashtag option 3. A conditional mercy. Humanity chooses not to wipe them out, but there are conditions. The Galactic Council is permanently dismantled. Every species that voted to enslave humanity must give up their most valuable worlds as tribute. Humanity will oversee the new order of the galaxy. ***, and any species that defies them will suffer the consequences. ***. We are not monsters. A human leader states, but we will never be victims again. Hashtag, 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 the new era. Whatever decision is made, one truth remains. Humanity has reshaped the galaxy forever. They are no longer the weak, primitive race that the Council once saw them as. They are now the rulers of the stars, the most feared species in existence. And the galaxy will never forget the day humanity rose from the ashes and took its revenge. Would you like any refinements or additions?